Hey everyone, welcome to the Pawareness podcast, and thanks for joining me. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and also check us out at pawareness.org and on Instagram at pawareness_official. On Instagram, we are doing submissions for Pet of the Week, where you can submit your foster pet, and we'll pick one winner every month, and we'll give $200 to their choice of charity or foster. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right. In today's episode, we have Dr. Amber Burton with us, and I want to thank you so much for coming on. And the way I want to start this is with Wolf Trap Rescue, located in Virginia, I believe. And I just want you to go ahead and introduce yourself and your organization, give us a background on that, and then we can get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Dr. Amber Burton. I'm the founder and executive director of Wolf Trap Animal Rescue. I'm a veterinarian, so it's been a big calling for me to be in the shelter medicine world. I've been in it for a long time now. And just with the overpopulation crisis that our current nation is facing on a daily basis, I started Wolf Trap Animal Rescue to work as a way to provide an outlet of rescue for these animals that are in these super highly populated and high euthanasia areas of the country, to then bring them to areas with a very high adoption demand to try and get them homes.
Gotcha. And is that something that when you were going to vet school, is that something you knew you wanted to focus on, or was it when you kind of got thrown into it, you're like, I want to focus on that then?
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't think any veterinarian in their right mind would ever consider running an animal rescue organization. To be perfectly honest, I'm hoping to change all that. But, a lot as veterinarians, we kind of have sometimes not the best relationships with local rescue groups. And that's because there tends to be a lot of non-oversight of the veterinary care that or care in general that's provided to a lot of these animals. A lot of these shelters and rescue groups are doing the best with what they can with donated medications and people giving supplies or expired donations of medications, and they're trying to do the very best they can with what they can afford, but oftentimes that can lead to lower quality of care than these animals should be receiving from a veterinary standpoint, because veterinarians can be very cost prohibitive for some of these rescue groups that don't have those disposable funds. So it was more of kind of like what you described as being thrown into the mix of everything. Well, I didn't want to go to vet school because I was absolutely terrified of surgery, ironically enough. But then I was like, oh, well, I'll go to vet school and maybe I just won't do surgery and I'll just get through the training, but then never have to do it. Too much responsibility, I said. And so, but I was very young. I was very young when I got into vet school. I was like 18, so I had a very immature mindset. And so when I got into vet school, it turns out I was pretty good at surgery. So I kind of got funneled into that. And in vet school, the number one way to get a lot of surgery experience is to work with the shelters that need the help, right? So you go in and to get your surgery experience, you want to work with the shelters because they'll let you do anything because they need those surgeries, the spay and neuter, done for them. So I got really good at it, and the Oklahoma State University shelter program asked me to kind of stay on and do a shelter medicine internship. I'd be helping teach a little bit of the junior surgery program and getting my feet wet with shelter medicine. And so then I would work, I'd spend half my time at the university rotating and teaching surgery, and then the other half of my time was spent at the City of Tulsa Animal Welfare, which was a huge 12,000 annual intake animal shelter. And so I think that was probably the experience. I got over 10,000 surgeries that year of experience, which is more than some vets do in their whole career. So I got a lot of experience in that internship, but I also got a lot of experience of, unfortunately, the sad reality of what these shelters go through. And until you're behind the scenes and you work and you see it, like, we don't understand that, the very first day of my internship, I was in there like scrubbing my hands, getting ready for surgery. And the manager comes around the corner with a list of 300 animals and says, hey, Dr. Burton, before you start surgery, you're going to need to do daily rounds every day. And when you do that, we need you to pick 25 dogs and 25 cats to go on the euthanasia list for the morning to make room for the ones coming in today. And that's what I had to do every single day at the beginning of that internship. And that's a really sad reality that I don't think a lot of people understand for a lot of these big city municipal shelters. And so that never really left me. That kind of stuck with me. I call that one of my first impact moments of shelter medicine. And that, so after that, I finished that internship, and in that internship, I spent some time in the University of Florida helping teach their program. And from that experience, I was kind of headhunted to go and teach surgery and shelter medicine at Mississippi State's program. So then I went there and I spent a 3-year residency, basically driving a 32-foot modified gooseneck trailer into a mobile surgery suite with senior veterinary students. And we would go all over the state doing free spay neuter for all the shelter's adoptable animals. So that was great. And I probably got another 30,000 surgeries under my belt with that residency. So yeah, I mean, so that was really kind of what cemented my career in that field, was just kind of getting in it and getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And Mississippi's a whole nother animal. Mississippi is, what I say is like my second impact moment was when I wasn't supposed to be doing this, but I was doing this anyway. And I was, you don't make any money when you're doing residencies, like you're kind of like slaves. And I was working on the side for one of these shelters to just make some extra money. We call it moonlighting. And one day I thought I was just coming to do behavior evaluations and give some rabies vaccines, kind of the standard things. And my job that day was to euthanize 127 puppies and kittens because they had 40 on their doorstep dropped off that morning from people just dumping litters of puppies on the outside of the shelter. So that was a really rough experience and a rough day. And I kind of walked away from that, and I kind of did this to shelter medicine. I was like, you know what, I'm not made for this, like I'm not cut out for this. So I relocated in 2015 from Mississippi when I finished my residency, and I also got my MBA while I was there. And then I relocated out to Southern Maryland for a big surgery position, making a ton of money. And when I was just up here in Fairfax County touring the shelter in 2015, I was just like, oh, hey, where are all your puppies? Like, what's going on? I was talking to one of the workers, and they were like, oh, no, we don't have any, but we've got a 300-person wait list if you want to add your name to the list. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, 300 people are sitting here waiting in Northern Virginia to adopt a puppy, and you just have a list of people? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I can have you 300 puppies on a truck tomorrow from all the shelters that I used to work with. And they were like, no, like, we don't want anything to do with that. So, puppies are high risk. They get sick. They could carry parvovirus, which could, if a rescue group doesn't know what they're doing, they could take on a litter of puppies. And if 4 of them break with parvo, it could cost you $10,000 to treat it up here. So a rescue could go bankrupt if they didn't have a good relationship with a vet or have a vet that knew what they were doing to treat it. So long story short, the shelter didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want my help. And I was just like, I can't believe that. And so then my MBA kicked in, basic economics, supply and demand. And I'm like, all right, okay. And then my right-hand guy, Jesse, was working with me at my previous job. And he just kept hearing me complain about it. I'm like, I can't believe this shelter won't take these puppies. This is just ridiculous. And he was like, well, shut up. Either shut up or put up or shut up, basically, like do something about it. And so I was like, no, I'm a surgeon. Like, I am not about to start an animal rescue. Like, that's crazy people run rescues, right? Like, they're the crazy rescue people. And then I just never could stop thinking about it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a test pilot. We're going to do a pilot program here. We're going to create a Facebook page. We're going to call ourselves Wolf Trap Animal Rescue because Wolf Trap is like a big national park up here. And it's a big amphitheater music venue. So a lot of people know where it is. And I was living at the time right next to it. I was like, we're going to call ourselves Wolf Trap Animal Rescue. We're going to create a Facebook page. I'm going to put a call out for fosters. I'm going to call the shelter that I used to work with that put down all those puppies from a long time ago. I'm going to tell them I can take 25 puppies. We're going to rent a cargo van. We're going to drive 14 hours to Mississippi. Then we're going to drive to one of my previous students' vet clinic an hour away. We're going to spay and neuter them all. And then we're going to drive them all the way back 14 hours while they're sleeping and waking up. And we'll see if this works and if people show up. So we're driving, and in the middle of the night, like, people are emailing in and commenting and like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll help. So by the time we got back from Northern Virginia, going down to Mississippi, picking up the animals and coming back, I had a list of 15 to 20 people that would take a puppy or litter mates, of people who had no idea who they were. They had no idea who we were because you couldn't Google us or look us up because we didn't exist, right? And we pulled up to the PetSmart parking lot with that litter of puppies to 100 people clapping and cheering and like standing ovation. Just so, I mean, the energy was palpable of the people who wanted to help. And that was what I say was like my third impact moment of my career. Kind of like, shit, like, well, we got to do it now. Like, we can't, like, we can do this, you know, like, we can do this consistently. So now we're like the #1 adoption organization in all of Northern Virginia and DC area because, you know, I capitalized on the niche of taking the desire and the interest of people here that really wanted to follow this rescue movement, but there was no organization or supply or an organization that could provide the opportunity for somebody to rescue a puppy. So we just went into that niche of, well, there are puppies being euthanized every single day in these shelters in Mississippi. Let's get them out of there. Let's get them up here and let's get them into the homes of people who do. So, I mean, it's grown faster than we can keep up with from there. And it's been awesome. It's been a super rewarding experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of that story I didn't even find online. So that's really, I do believe one person can make a difference. And especially like you get, and then it's just a snowball effect. And I think that's amazing. Now, so many questions like ran through my head when you're, you know, talking about all that. Now, I know that you're focused on getting puppies into the right hands, but does that mean because you have so many hours of surgery under your belt, are people trying to send animals that need surgery to you specifically? Like, oh, you know, Dr. Amber Burton, like, let's send it to her because she's, you know, this excellent surgeon. Does that happen often, or do you just have I can't do it?
So there was like a big ethical dilemma that I pretty much faced when I moved up here, because there's very few people that have the highly skilled and specialized training that I have. Like, I'm one of the fastest surgeons in the country. I can do a 2.5, 3 minute kitten spay. I can do a 7-minute puppy spay. And for reference, like, most veterinarians, it takes anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour to do a spay, you know, and it takes me seven minutes, you know, and a 50-pound dog, it might take me 15, you know, which would take a regular vet an hour. So you can imagine, like, I can get through a ton of animals in a very quick amount of time. Like, we'll do surgery on 30 puppies and we'll start at 8 o'clock and we'll be done by 10:30, you know, so that's a lot of animals. That's a pretty big conveyor belt of animals. Yeah, I mean, so my ethical dilemma was, okay, I knew I could open up a spay neuter specialty center here and I could charge $1,000 a pop. And because, to be perfectly honest, as shelter veterinarians that are specialized in high volume, they really don't get the credit that they deserve. You know, like, they are the absolute best. You'll have a board certified surgeon charge $1,500 up here to do a spay, and it takes them forever. You know, it'll take them an hour and a half because they don't do a lot of spays, but they're board certified. So we immediately think they're going to be the best to handle that. But then a lot of these high volume spay neuter vets that have been around forever and have done a ton of surgeries, like, they're so comfortable with the tissue and the repetitive procedure that it is that they can get it in and out so fast. So it's interesting because we are actually, as high volume spay neuter veterinarians, we are specialists and experts in spay neuter. Like, nobody's faster than us, nobody's better than us, but yet we charge the least. And that to me is just crazy because it's just inverse marketing. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So most of these high volume spay neuter vets, you find them at these low cost spay neuter clinics. And that's where a lot of us typically end up at when we're trained that way, because they're doing so much volume. But they're doing so much volume because they have to do that many to make the amount of money. So in my mind, the MBA goes, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. You should advertise and market yourself as the best in the country, because you are, and charge appropriately. So I could do 10 surgeries in a morning and I would be done in an hour and made $10,000 at the end of the day. And we're closing up and gone home by noon. Yeah, you know, so, but to me, that was my ethical dilemma. Could I have opened that and started that here and been super successful? Absolutely, because my incisions are like a centimeter long. So yeah, I could very easily have done that. However, ethically, like, do I think it's ethical to charge somebody $1,000 for a spay or neuter? No, I don't. I don't think it's ethical. I think that's a wellness factor that you can price point people out. If I truly believe that spay neuter is an absolute necessity for wellness of your animal, which I do, and to prevent overpopulation, it can't be cost prohibitive. And when you're $1,000, you are cost prohibitive. So there's just like a total different mission point there. If my mission was to make money, absolutely, I could have done that and been great. But my mission isn't to make money. My mission is to save as many animals as we can and kind of pay back my dues for all those animals that I had to pick to go on the euthanasia list, because they don't ever leave you. I mean, you remember them all, and it doesn't really leave. So I guess this is my penance to try to make up for it.
No, that's great. I think that's an amazing way to look at it. I mean, you'll see, I think those people that are charging the $1,000 and, taking that much time, things will change. Businesses has a way of evolving. I think I'm interested to see how that goes. Now, from kind of what my research and just talking with other people, it seems that every area has its own issues. And you even mentioned it when you were talking to me, how, like in Mississippi, there's issues that are, in terms of there. And I've talked with people in different states, and it seems like every area there's like these geographical issues. Are there any particular in Virginia or in your area that you deal with, or are you countering more so the ones like in Mississippi and other high euthanasia states? Is that how you tackle that?
Sure. Yeah, so that question can kind of be answered twofold. So like here in Virginia, well, okay, I will say there is a difference between Northern Virginia and Virginia. Okay, so, Northern Virginia, we're very close to DC and that whole Maryland, DMV triangle area. And everyone's standards and standard of care, and I guess I would say personal requirements and personal values are off the charts sometimes. So you can't even go into a dog park here in this area unless your pet's spay or neutered. And if it's not, you're having somebody coming up to you with their finger chastising you and saying, you need to get your dog neutered. Like, that's not okay. Which is amazing, which is great. Like, I'm all about it. Am I going to do that? No. I might give you my card and say, no. But, but in the rest of Virginia, I would say more of like the Western and Southwestern Virginia is much more rural. So that level of thinking is very different. Mississippi is a whole nother world in its own, but it's very similar to the South and Oklahoma and Texas. You have multiple battles, and this is how they differ regionally. Is you have two battles. You have one, which is the personal mindset of people that don't want to spay and neuter. They have this emotional conflict of neutering their dog, especially in men. No offense. I joke that, and I say that, sometimes men are more attached to their dog's appendages than the dog is. But usually if I make that reference, it kind of changes their mentality real quick and they'll sign them up for a neuter. And so there's that mentality that, we don't want to take away his manhood, he's a man dog.
Yeah.
And then you deal with a lot of the like hunters, the guys that have working dogs, that go fox hunting, coon hunting, things like that. They believe that the drive of the animal is very much focused on them being intact and having those hormones. I'll say I've seen some darn good working dogs that are neutered, so I'll leave that at that. But then, so you have a mental challenge with people, but then you also have a geographical challenge of being extremely rural. I get asked this question a lot when people are like, how in the world can there be that many puppies in the city? So, for example, we pull consistently right now about 30 puppies and 10 to 15 kittens every weekend. If every single weekend. We just started, trying to work in some other organizations when we can, but that's a lot of puppies. Every single Sunday, they're coming up from Mississippi. And I will tell you right now, I have a full-time transport coordinator on the ground that lives in Mississippi, and she only lives in one county. She's pulling animals from just one county of Boonville, Mississippi. And we have been doing this, working with her since 2015. And we have pulled over 6,000 animals and adopted them out. And we have only been in one county.
Wow.
Here's the geographical situation that comes in. That county is extremely huge, and it's also very rural. Okay. The very classic scenario that ends up happening is you've got Farmer Joe, right? And Farmer Joe has 500 acres. And Mrs. Farmer Joe's outside and she sees this cute little lab wander up onto the property, okay? She feels bad for it. She doesn't want it to starve to death. So Mr. Farmer Joe allows Mrs. Farmer Joe to feed it and have it so it doesn't starve. So what ends up happening is this dog keeps coming around. It's not their dog, but they're feeding it just so that it doesn't starve to death. Well, that dog then gets knocked up by another loose dog, and that yellow lab now has 10 puppies under the porch. Okay. Farmer Joe does not want 10 puppies. So what is he going to do? He's going to take the mama, if he can catch her, and he's going to take all those puppies under the false belief that they're all going to find homes and get adopted from the shelter, and he's going to take them to the shelter and just dump them and drop them off and say, here you go. Okay. In one county, there may be over 100 or 200 Farmer Joes that are all going through a very plausible and likely scenario. And then there's one shelter per county. Or if you're lucky, I know several shelters that it was one shelter that served 3 surrounding counties. How in the world is one shelter supposed to handle the volume of animals that come in when you have those types of situations?
Yeah, and it's a huge issue. And the thing is that I'm seeing here is that you guys are reacting to, like, the root cause isn't even changing, and it seems like it hasn't been changing since, what you say, 2015.
We are a band-aid. That is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of as a band-aid. Like, you're a band-aid, and the wound's it's still there, but you're just like, yeah. And so it's like, but like, how do you tackle that root cause? Like, that's like, does the city do it? Do more shelters start up? Like, are more shelters going to help? Like, I don't know.
Having more shelters isn't going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is education. That's changing the mindset of people not wanting to spay and neuter their dog, because chances are that yellow lab that got dumped and got bred got knocked up by the neighbor's dog, but he doesn't want to neuter his dog and just lets his dog run around, right? So that's a big scenario. You got client education, where you have to educate people that the importance of spay neuter and reducing pet overpopulation. You need to educate people and tell them what's going on in these shelters. Not all animal shelters are going to be able to find homes for these animals. You could be dropping these animals off and giving them a death sentence. So that's a huge public misconception. Do shelters do the absolute best they can with what they've got? Yeah, but they're only given a certain amount of money and certain amount of room to hold certain amount of animals. So like, and another thing people don't know is if you are a city shelter and you're taking money from the city, you have to take in whatever animal or animals a member from the city drops off. So if you get 100 animals brought into your shelter that day, you have to euthanize every single animal that's been in your shelter for longer than 3 days to make room for the ones that just came in. Because that is the requirement that you have when you take city funds or county funds is you have to accept them. You can't say, sorry, we're full.
Yeah, and it's kind of like this balance between they have to take the money because they need the money to operate,
Mm-hmm.
and then but then there's space, and space is finite, and it's like, what do you do? It's
Right.
yeah.
So you have to educate people on the problem. And then here's the thing. We were doing free surgeries for shelters. There were other programs that were doing free surgeries for the public. But even free surgeries or super low cost discounted surgeries, people still won't do it
And
because
it's just because
they don't want to spay and neuter their dog because of the mindset that they have. The other thing
wow.
that they needed, so the only way, truly, in my opinion, that you're going to solve this problem is you make it a law to spay and neuter your animal. You make it finable, and then you provide some form of a government assistance regulation of that. So if you get
Hmm.
fined or your dog gets captured, you can have your dog back, but it will come back to you spay or neuter. Unless you have like a breeder's license or something from the USDA to prove that you are actually a good certified and inspected breeder, sure, you could probably get away with that. Shouldn't be doing that anyway, but if you could prove it. If you can't prove that you have a USDA or commercial breeder's license, then your dog can come back to you already fixed. So you could tackle it that way. And then you could also tackle it in the way that you have government paid veterinarians on a mobile unit that are at a certain place or going all over the state or states doing the surgeries for free. So you are providing an opportunity, whether it's city, county, state, government, I don't care. You have to be able to provide a free opportunity for people to. Now, if it becomes a law that they have to be spayed and neutered and there's no excuse, it can be done for free, you're going to have a lot more people comply and we're going to start seeing a change.
And are there, that of, any of the states in the United States right now that are close to, or has this even been brought up, or are there states that are close to this,
I
or?
have not seen a single free program. I have seen discounted programs where you can income qualify, but that takes so much work for them to have to prove their income, and some of them can't even prove their income because they don't have a job. So like it's too much work for them. So they won't do it. I truly believe that the only way you're going to get people to do it is to create a government funded program that's free for people, the public, and also changing the law. If you can change the law and make it a requirement, then and the only way you can get around it is to apply or have a commercial breeder's permit and make that a requirement, then sure. But I don't think that anything's going to change until that happens.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it. And do you think there's any state here soon that might pass a law, or do you think we're kind of far away from that?
Honestly, I don't know if the conversation has been brought up. Like the concept of low cost spay neuter and like traveling around and doing low cost spay neuter, like they do it, but until like we as a government level take action and provide the funds to be able to do that. I mean, it would be an awesome program just with every shelter program at every university across the United States. The government should be paying them to have the same program that I have at Mississippi State, instead of Mississippi State applying for huge grants from PetSmart charities to run their free surgery program for the shelters or for the public. Like they should be, the government should be working with the vet schools to train veterinarians to come out and then take over those mobile units and then operate them. Like they could start it very easily at the shelter medicine program level and build up from there. But I just don't think that our government has recognized that our nation is in a crisis with overpopulation. It's just not enough of a priority yet.
Well, and that's the whole thing about Pawareness, is spread as much awareness to this stuff as possible. And,
Mhm.
hopefully, you never know, down the road, someone listens to this and like one person can make a change. Like if they truly can. And like you started with just you, and how many people are in your organization now? Like, is it still like a pretty tight group of people? Like,
I mean, I've got 8 employees, and I mean, we've got a huge operation. I spent the last 2 years building out a huge animal rescue center here in Northern Virginia. So now everyone that adopts from us can follow up with me as their veterinarian. Because to be perfectly honest, like I don't want to see the pet from Joe Schmo who just went and bought a $2,500 designer Labradoodle. You know, like that's not my type of client that I'm going to be able to connect with, because our vision and awareness for our animals are very different. Like you went out with the mission and objective to purchase something that you think is pretty and that you like and is based on your designer. Whereas the people that rescue are more empathetic and they understand the importance of rescue and what we do as a mission. So I have a much deeper, stronger connection with people in my organization and people that seek out wolf trap animal rescue with the mission to rescue, because they understand and they kind of hopefully get it, you know, and not just, oh, I want a puppy so they can wolf trap. Like hopefully they understand that, you know, the rescue mission that's involved with it. Most people do. But those are the type of clients that I want to follow up with. Like those are my ideal clients. As veterinarians, like it's crazy to me, like we have just subjected ourselves to accept whatever client we want. And that's not how I'm going to operate. Like when I sit down and interview you for a follow-up appointment, it's going to be an interview to see if we jive, you know, like if what I want as standard of care for your pet is the same as standard of care that you want for your pet, and we have the same objective and understanding, like we're going to get along great and I'm going to be able to work and be great for you. Whereas if you think that you're coming to me because we're nonprofit and you're just going to get away paying cheap, like we're not going to jive and I don't want you as a client. So in the beginning, when the hospital opens, I have no intention of ever being open to the public. I'm only going to be open to people that adopt from us. So it'll be very exclusive. You have to have one of my puppies or kittens in order to come back and see me, because then it also solidifies the pet bond and bond with the owner as well with me, because like I've been with this animal and approved it for transport from the beginning. So I am the most stable, consistent thing that pet has gone through its entire life. So it makes sense and it means more to me, you know, knowing these animals and then growing old with them and seeing the homes that they get is much more impactful for me as a veterinarian than just another person and a name on an appointment schedule, you know. So I'll see them as follow-ups, and then I'm only going to take like 500 clients and then that's it, call it a day. And it's going to be more concierge, so it'll be like on a monthly plan, so they'll pay like 100 something a month, and it'll include all their vaccines, their wellness, their fecals, blood work, urinalysis, you know, full body x-rays to just do annual scans. And they can two-way message the clinic at all times and get in touch with me, and I'll do virtual appointments 2 days a week too. And so I can be a better vet to 500
Exactly.
people than I can be a vet to 5,000 people all trying to book an appointment and, oh, we're booked out 2 weeks, so you'll have to wait. And then the problem is even worse. Like, no, like $100 a month, like you never pay an appointment fee. You're part of the club, you know, like you just come in. We got a huge indoor dog park too. That's part of the vet office. So like when you come in, you just let your dog off in the dog park, and then you can go to the kombucha stand or whatever and get you some kombucha and hang out while your dog's running around and burning off energy in the dog park. And then, you know, that way you come into the appointment exam room and then come out, they hang out in the dog park. Your dog's gonna have a great positive association with going to the dog park, you know, and it'll be familiar because the rescue center is going to be the first thing that they see when they come off that van in Virginia, you know. So the place will have a very familiar smell to them, as it not being so scary because they've been to this place several times throughout the foster period, whether or not it's for intake, you know, transfer day or spay neuter surgery, or if they ever got sick and had to come in. So my mindset doesn't work like a regular veterinarian. Like I think veterinary medicine is just crazy how we've gotten to ourselves. Like we take whoever we want as clients, which I think is crazy. You're forced into it. And you don't have any say so. And then we just book ourselves out and work ourselves thin without scaling down and providing better quality of care and focusing more on an experience and a service rather than just, you know, coming in and check boxing things and in and out and going on your way. So it's all about the client perception of value. If you can dedicate the time to the appointments and the time to your clients, they're going to understand the value. If it's $120 a month, they don't care because it's peace of mind. They know, hey, that's a gym membership up here.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
what do they care? They're like, oh, $120 a month and I can go or like text or call Dr. V if I ever have a question. Yeah, no worries. Like that's cakewalk. Oh, and I get to go to the only indoor off-leash dog park in all of Northern Virginia, and that comes with my membership. Done.
Yeah.
And so I could take 500 clients and be completely sustainable and cover all the overhead for the rescue just by having 500 clients, and so that's really my ultimate goal is just and I'm not going to just take the first 500 clients. Like I'm going to sit them down. We're going to have a conversation and it's going to be my decision. It's not going to be yours. Like
That's awesome. I think I'm a big believer in work smart and work hard. I love both of those. And that just seems like, it sounds like you're making the most out of that business education as well. And you're tying it really into the veterinary side of things. And I think that's amazing. I wish more vets out here would do that. And like you said, scale down. You'll be fresher. You won't beat yourself up. You won't be working yourself into the ground, and you can deliver higher services, quality services.
And I mean, and just if you had an emergency and needed to do a walk-in appointment or a last-minute appointment, up here they're going to charge you $150 to walk in the door anyway.
Yep.
So it's like, and as a veterinarian, it's also interesting. Like, there's such a you have to cater to your client's generation, right? Like right now, I would say 75 to 80% of the demographic that's adopting from us right now are young professionals or young families. Okay, they're basically millennials or on the outer perimeter of that. And what are we programmed financially now to do? Subscription, right? Everything is subscription. If we know that it's going to cost us $300 to walk in the door because our dog is scratching his face off and we know it's a problem, but if we are like having an anxiety attack because we know it's going to be $300 to walk in the door, you just don't want to do it. So you drag your feet and delay and delay and delay until you have to go, until the dog now has this open sore and weeping wound. And now it's a bigger problem and a bigger issue than it ever should have been in the first place. So if you take away that barrier and they're on a subscription already, they know that they could just make an appointment or just walk in the door the same day or next day and not have to pay that appointment fee just for me to look at it and say, yeah, we might need to do this or that and catch it before it becomes a problem. It makes everybody's life easier. And one of the other things that I'm going to require my clients, that I also don't understand why veterinarians don't do this, but you will be required to have insurance. So, and what that does is, I mean, if you have a new puppy, it's 25 to 30 bucks a month, right? It's nothing. What that does is that covers you. So in the event of an emergency, if I'm not open, it's after hours, or if your pet is super sick, you pay 30 bucks a month, it covers 80% of your vet bills. So you can then go to a specialist and have that. You could come into me and I'll be like, hey, look, like, I think this is something serious. This might be a fracture. You're probably going to want to, I am really great at soft tissue and I'm really great at mass removals, amputations, enucleations, and spay neuter. But if it's an orthopedic, like, yeah, I could do it, but I'm not the best at it, right? So don't use me. In the best interest of your animal is having the person who is the best. So as a veterinarian, I could charge you $2,000 in x-rays, blood work, working it all up. And then I'm going to say, yeah, but you might want to go to the board certified orthopedic surgeon across the street at VCA South Paws. They're going to go there. Guess what they're going to have you do? Blood work, x-rays, all that stuff all over again. And your client has now spent $2,000 with you. And now they're about to spend $6,000 at the orthopedic specialist, which to me, I think is unethical. If your client had insurance, and they were paying $30 a month, well, they could come into you, you charge nothing because they're on a subscription. You're like, yeah, look, we can maybe take a quick x-ray for like 20 bucks or whatever, just see if it's broken. Okay, yeah, or maybe in your annual plan, you get x-rays with your annual plan. Cool, we're gonna use your x-ray from your annual plan. It costs you nothing. Yep, you got a fracture, go over to South Paws. Their total bill at South Paws was $6,000. They only have to pay 20%. So now they only had to pay $1,200 to have an orthopedic surgeon do everything perfectly They're $1,200 out of pocket. Whereas if they weren't, they would have been $2,000 just to work it up. So
Wow.
it makes no sense to me why as veterinarians we're put into a situation or we're trying to do things that we're not experts at to try to save our clients money. But in reality, you can very easily get in over your head. Like, I'm sorry, I am not a board certified internal medicine specialist. If your patient comes to me with diabetes, could I manage it? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not the best at it. Like, that's not my specialty. You should be going to an internal medicine specialist that can tailor the program and do everything perfect for you. And you're going to end up paying less with an out-of-pocket MAC. You know, you're 20% than it would be paying with me and not having insurance. And I'm not even the best. So you're getting lower quality care and you're paying more. Whereas if you just had insurance, you'd have been awesome. Now, of course, insurance is a gamble. If you have an absolutely perfect puppy, it never has any problems and is perfectly healthy for the first 5-10 years of life, good for you. Congratulations. But if you're a young professional, a young millennial, chances are you don't have the money to cover $6,000 to $10,000 up here. If your 12-month-old dog blows out his ACL catching a frisbee, you don't have the $6,000 to pay to have that ACL fixed. So it makes sense to have insurance so that you're only out the 20%. And then me as a veterinarian, it takes so much pressure and weight off me to be stressed to do something that I'm not an expert at and try to do that for my client because because they can't afford going to a specialist. Like, I want all of my clients to have insurance because there's no brainer to just go to the specialist if your animal is super sick or might need hospitalized.
And for some of these people out here who, like us humans, right, like there's certain insurances that are and aren't accepted. So let's say listeners that are listening, right, that want their pet insurance, are they all created equal? Is there like one particular that you may recommend over another? What's your feedback on that?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're looking at pet insurance, there's a lot of different types of insurances that are out there. I would say when you have a new puppy or new dog, like, you know, you could go with any of the top ones and you're going to pay right around the same rate. You know, the insurance premiums are going to be based on geographically where you live because they take into consideration obviously it's much more expensive for vet care here in Northern Virginia and DC than it would be in Mississippi, right? So your premiums are probably going to be double up here in Northern Virginia than they would be in Mississippi. So, but your top ones are going to be like Healthy Paws, Pet First, Pets Best, Nationwide even has insurance. I believe PetSmart just launched their own pet insurance, but I have no idea if it's good. You know, you could just do your research and just see Embrace Pet Insurance. That's another one. We work with Pet First because we have a very mutual beneficial relationship with them. They know I'm going to get them a lot of potential clients when we adopt out almost 120 to 150 puppies and kittens a month. Like, if people sign up with them for insurance, that's a potential that they could have somebody for the lifetime of that pet. So they give all of our adopters free 30 days of insurance up to $1,000 of coverage from the day of adoption. So all they have to do is call and activate it. It's including their adoption fee. And then what's really cool is because I'm a vet and I'm overseeing and Pet First knows that we have a 21-day quarantine period, they count our quarantine period as that grace period where, like, you know, sometimes you sign up for pet insurance and you have 14 days grace period and then your policy kicks in. Ours actually kicks in the day you adopt. So you could literally call and activate and say, hey, you know what? I know I get $1,000 of coverage for the first 30 days, but I want the full coverage. I want up to $10,000 and they'll activate it right there. You don't have any grace period. It goes into effect right there. So, which I think is amazing. The fact that you can adopt an animal and take it home, especially a rescue animal, like we pretty much screen out all the life-threatening illnesses with our 21-day quarantine. But the fact that you could take an animal home and have insurance is just amazing here. And I don't understand why a lot of rescues haven't picked up on that. Like Pet First will do that with a lot of shelter groups. So it's just a matter of, you know, starting those conversations and seeing what some of these companies will do for you.
That's great. And I think that's exactly it. Like, you're just leveraging something that you're giving the customer a better experience, and you're able to leverage that network and that partnership. So yeah, I mean, network is key. I think
Yeah.
it's absolutely key. Yeah.
And it also protects us as an organization too. Obviously there are certain things that nobody can predict something happening, or say somebody gets sick, or I'll use an example of, say we adopted a dog, they took it home and they weren't able to watch it. And this is maybe it's had surgery like 5 days ago, right? And the owner didn't watch it, didn't get an e-collar, and the new adopter, and they didn't pay attention, or they were in a meeting or something, and then they came back and the dog had chewed its incision open, right? So then they've got to go to the emergency vet, and they've got to have them sedated and it restapled and closed up and everything. So that insurance helps protect us too, so that they don't come back and say, oh, well, there was a problem with the incision, this is your fault, you should have given me an e-collar, you should have done this and that, like, you need to pay this vet bill, and we could simply just sit back and say, well, no, like, we have given you insurance that covers anything that could be unforeseen. Even if it's not our fault, even if it's not your fault, you are protected. And if they don't do that, then that's a level of responsibility that falls on them. It doesn't fall on us as an organization. So it is just a little bit more of a protection for the organization as well, to say, like, don't blame us. When there's nobody's fault at home, there is at least your fault if you're too lazy to pick up the phone and activate the insurance, right? So there is that level, is like, at least if there are issues or like that, or heaven forbid something happen, or they say, oh, she had this when we brought her home, this is your fault, even though it's 3 weeks later and you hadn't heard anything about it. Like, it's that level of coverage that's like, well, look, like, you have the insurance, you could have done X, Y, and Z. If you didn't, it's not our fault, and if you had activated the insurance and they still didn't cover it, or there was an issue, then I'm more than happy to step in as a director and try to rectify the situation as best I can. But I can't help you unless you help yourself first.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, like, my last question is it's kind of twofold, right? So first is, if someone isn't in your geographical location, but let's say they're, after listening to this, they're like, I want to foster, I want to rescue, what would you recommend to them? What would you, like, one piece of advice from a professional?
Sure. So my piece of advice, if you're interested in fostering, is to do your research on the organization, understand their mission, understand what they're about. And then if you have a bad experience or you don't like it, try a different one. Try working with another one. Like, yes, it's about the animals, but my best fosters are some of my best friends that I have now since I started Wolf Trap, because I've known them for the last 5. I didn't have any friends when I moved here, and I'll say, when I started Wolf Trap, I have a lot of friends. and it's because you develop a relationship with these fosters, and it's the organization itself. Like, the fosters are what make the organization. Attitude reflects leadership, in my opinion. But
I believe the same thing.
But at the same time, like, we are such a big family and organization because we are all very supportive, and I've tried to help control the mindset of being very progressive and very modern. So it's just about the type of person that you are, and finding the rescue organization that, like, fits in with you as a person. Like, I'll say we have a lot of young millennial fosters and volunteers with our organization, and that's because we're younger than most. Like, I'm pretty young compared to all the rest of the directors of these rescue organizations, so all of our volunteers and adopters and fosters tend to be in my age category. So we're all online, we're all online applications, we are all online payment portals, our signups for fostering are all online, our training are all interactive online modules, so it's very catered to that. Would somebody who's 65 years old or 70 years old fit well in that mold? I have a lot of volunteers and fosters that are, but it's very challenging for them to do the new modern progressive way of how the entity works. They might fit better with some of our other local rescue organizations here that have an 80 or 90% demographic of people between the ages of 50 and 65. So it's all about finding the rescue organization that fits best with who you are as a person too. And if you have a bad experience, then just get back up there and try with a different organization. I am all about, even my own fosters, I'm like, hey guys, like, love you, but go try out all these other different places, go see what it's like at other places. And 99% of the time they all come back to me running. They're like, oh my gosh, we were so spoiled, with Wolf Trap, because like I'm on call 24/7. They can call me if they have a problem as a foster, whereas like they're with another organization and they need a vet and they don't hear from the organization for 3 days and they've got a sick puppy, so experience is key. Like, go out there and do it. Don't be afraid to do it. Like, one of my really good friends, she fostered with us in 2015. She had never had a dog or even petted a dog outside of just like her friends having a dog or something. She knew nothing about it. And so she took a dog home and just cold turkey was like, we're going to do it. And then she learned the same way as the puppy did, like first interaction. And I mean, she's now like, she's awesome. She's knows more about dogs than I do, I feel like sometimes. So, but it's funny because when you first start, you're going to feel very inept for your first time fostering. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. And what's hilarious to me is after every round of fostering, I'll have the fosters come back and say, oh, Dr. B, the puppy you gave me last time was awesome. It was so much better than the first one. He was great. And then the next time they foster, like, no, I thought the last one was good, but this one was even better. Like, he was phenomenal. And then their fourth time, they're like, Dr. B, this puppy's amazing. It was ringing the bell and going to the potty within 24 hours and slept through the night. And he was just the picture perfect dog. And I'm just sitting back and I'm laughing because you're not getting a better puppy. You are just getting better as training and fostering. So, it's funny how they think that the puppies are just getting better and better. And I'm like, no, you are just understanding their behavior and like when they need to go outside now. Before, you didn't understand what that behavior meant. So you're just picking up more subconsciously of communicating with your foster and being able to do that underlying communication, which is really fun because I have so many fosters that tell me the same thing. And I'm just like, no, you're just getting good. Like you're just coming into your
That's
own.
So funny you say that because when I first started, I thought the same exact thing. Now, I do want to say I was going to end on that, but I want to actually say one thing. I noticed on your guys' website, you guys have like a training, like you're big on education. I'm getting that theme. And so it's this like training before someone even fosters, right? Like, Is that okay? And I think that's great because like you said, like you can even go through this training and it's still a challenge. I didn't have any training and I wish I would have, or, going into it, I guess, than just getting a dog. So
It's kind of, COVID's been amazing and where it's like it's either pushed you to flourish or it's pushed you to fail is what COVID hit. I have to, fortunately for us, like it pushed us to flourish. Like it made us have to figure out how to do these online trainings and online signups and everything and online payment portals. It pushed us to figure that out in 2 weeks rather than in 2 years down the line, we were going to go that route. So it really forced me and my team to come up with solutions on how to navigate. And now we got it down pat and it's amazing. The only thing I don't like, I'm a very personable person. Like I like meeting my new fosters. I like talking to people. I think people will believe in your mission if they hear it and they understand. It's so important for them to understand why they are doing this, like why. So when that puppy's screaming at 2 o'clock in the morning, you get to remind yourself and say, I saved its life. I saved its life. I saved its life. So usually what we do pre-COVID is when all of our fosters sign up, they would all congregate at PetSmart, outside PetSmart at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and the puppies would be in at 8 in the morning. We'd have them all processed and in their carriers and ready to go by 11 o'clock. And at 11 o'clock, everyone should be checked in, and they all go over, congregate into a big an area outside PetSmart, and I give a talk, and I give my lecture. I give a puppy 101 speech, and everybody has to be there. Everyone has to talk, and for about 25 minutes, they get to stand there and listen to me, unfortunately for them. And, and I get to give a 101, which is where you kind of heard in the intro, like my story of like, it's so important for them to understand who I am, who Wolf Trap is, and why we do what we do, like what your role is and how. And every single puppy that we pull, we can only pull them if we have a foster for that puppy. So like you showing up today and taking this puppy home, like you saved that puppy's life, because otherwise it would have been put down or it would have been run over or it would have had a horrible outcome. Because you wouldn't believe how many people, when I'm sitting there and I'm telling them about my impact moments, and I'll say, I went into the shelter and I had to euthanize 127 puppies and kittens in one day. And you just see everyone just, I think one person, there was at least 4 people crying one time I was giving a talk. And it's because they have no idea that actually is real life. So some people just sign up thinking, oh, puppies, this will be great and fun. And then boom, here's Dr. B with the 101, like punching you in the gut. And so then it makes you feel so much more connected intimately to the organization when you get to hear that come from me and hear me talk about my experiences and working with the same shelters that I used to put all these animals down in. Like, here they are. Now we're trying to solve the problem. And this is how every single one of you here today saved a life. And this is just the beginning. And so I think that's important for a lot of people to feel connected to an organization. So unfortunately, I kind of lose that now that we are in this COVID and we have these online training modules. But I am going to work with our marketing company to, once we kind of get out of COVID, like I do want to try to get this whole 101, puppy 101 talk down pat, and get some footage of the shelters in Mississippi, get some footage of some of that, and put it all together in like a 15-minute video that they can watch to like really truly understand. And then they can get my whole 101 in a video and watch it. And then they'll feel that connection and that personal intimacy with the organization. But I feel like that's really important. And a lot of organizations don't understand the value of that. You have to give people a mission, and they have to understand what they're doing, and they will be more likely to come back and more likely to be supportive of you. Even positive word of mouth, be like, oh, you don't know about Wolf Trap? Well, let me tell you about Wolf Trap and what they do, because they've been inspired and they've been mission motivated is what I like to call our fosters and volunteers.
That's great. And I think that kind of leads me into the last thing is, how, if someone is in your area or general vicinity, what's the best way to get in touch to see if they would be a good fit with you guys? Like how do they do that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, just see if you're a good fit. If you want to, I always say, like, get on the website, go through all the pages on the website. It's going to look very different than any other animal rescue website.
I did notice that. I really liked your guys' website a lot. Yeah.
That was one of my biggest missions with that website is, you'll see some of these rescue organizations and shelters, like they have such a cartoony or anime or very outdated logo and a very outdated look to the website. And that's so off-putting to people in our generation, like these young millennials. Like, we want fresh, we want hip, we want new. Like,
yeah.
We all like to think we're hipsters or we're cool. Like,
yeah.
We want to have that tie to the website, and we want that progressive, modern look and feel. And if you aren't ahead of the game, you're behind. And that's the same with shelters or foster organizations, rescue organizations. Like, you need to, and if you want to be considered a professional organization, you need to look like one. If you want to be treated like one, you need to look like one. And I tell you, there's going to be a lot less people emailing or trying to create problems for you, because every organization has problems. No matter who you are, you're going to have some issues you have to deal with. You're going to have a lot less likely to have issues looking like a very well oiled machine than just, a rundown cartoon logo that looks like it's run by 80-year-old volunteers, that they think that they can bully into something or they can get their way. Like, you're not going to get that impression from a very professional modern website. You're going to treat them like a very professional modern business. And I run our organization very, very much like a business. Like, it has to be.
It does. Yep.
You can't. And unfortunately, you can't save everything. You can't save the animals that are going to cost $4,000 because that's not a good business decision. It's not a good business decision because I could have rescued 25 other animals for the same amount of money. So, like, you got to have a heart, but at the same time, like, you have to run your business like a business. And we have run our business so that it is fueled entirely. Like, we don't operate off donations. In fact, if we never received a donation, we would be just fine, because I run my business so that, operations in or operations out. So what we collect from our adoption fees pays for everything else. And anything that's donated goes through growing our program, or growing, getting something extra, or hiring another employee to pay for something else, so like everything we get donated goes towards something else to grow and get better. But if you just try to rely entirely on donations, when something like COVID hits, you're going to be in trouble. So like our entire business, like you can't rely on those donations. If you get them, great, but if you don't, you can still operate regardless of your donor base. And that's very, very important. So, but anyway, I digress, going back, but with the website, yeah, they could just go to the website and really feel if they have a connection through it. Our website talks about how we're different, why we're different, and all the different avenues you can explore on the type of experience you're going to get. And then if you want to foster, all you do is you submit a foster application, and then we post our foster opportunities on our Facebook page. So I create individual signups for certain periods. So say it's getting towards the end of August, say probably the last week of August, we'll put a post up on our Instagram and Facebook, and we'll say, hey, foster opportunities, guys, get ready. They're going to be posted in 48 hours. So watch the website. Then we do a 24-hour notice. And then the next morning, or whatever time I say we're going to post them, like the next month's foster periods, like every Sunday will be posted for whether you want to foster a puppy or you want to foster a kitten. Those signups are right there, and people can go through and sign up for them. And then probably about a week before the foster period starts, my foster coordinator will call you and go over everything and just make sure that you're comfortable with everything and you have an idea of like what to expect, what's going on. And then she'll walk you through like training and things like that, and how we do our pickup day. So because of COVID, all of our animals come in, and then we have to have them all ready to go. And then they sign up for a pickup time, in 15-minute increments. And then we do basically curbside delivery of their foster animal, contactless, and they have a little card that has all the information about their pet and their name and their stuff. And then they get to the foster supplies and the puppy, and then we like walk away and say, hey, So it is a little bit different. I hate the impersonal aspect of it, but that's what you would expect. And then you go through the foster period, and then we have a foster Facebook page, which I think is very important for any organization. If you're like a rescue or shelter, is have a page for your designated fosters, because they're a great wealth of information and confidence providing, or they're your cheerleaders essentially. So if somebody's having like a rough day with their foster puppy or something like that, then they can go to the foster page and post that and can ask for help.
And I'll leave links to that in the description below for the YouTube video and any other social media mediums they're on as well. So Dr. Burton, thank you so much for just sharing your time with us. I learned a lot. I'm sure the listeners learned a lot. It was a pleasure having you on here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to share a story. I hope that I can be a model for my whole end goal for Wolf Trap Animal Rescue is to be a model for other transport organizations, because we can be a lot bigger of a Band-Aid if there are other rescue organizations that are modeling and doing the same thing that we're doing. So I'm trying to set the bar really high and create that top tier standard of care. And hopefully if other organizations want to start, developing or pursuing a transport program, like come to me, like email me from the website, and I'm happy to share all of our transport requirements, like documents, things like that, to set them up for success. Because I'm just working in one county, and there's a lot of other counties in Mississippi that could have someone else on the receiving end. So, we're only as strong as our weakest link. So, I just hope that there'll be other organizations that'll be like, yeah, let's do it. And it just takes one person to say that they can do it. So I'm hoping to get into the vet world and work with other universities and start getting students and showing them that, hey, you don't have to be that crazy rescue person to run a really successful animal rescue transport program, and be a director. Like, you as a veterinarian can be a director. You can make a difference. you can still practice really good quality veterinary medicine, but then do this amazing thing on the side and show that there are job opportunities that you can create and that you can do, and just by replicating this model.
That's so amazing. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Lead by example. And hopefully, yeah, so like you said, people follow in your footsteps. So that's great. Dr. Burton, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you, learning from you. Thanks, and take care, everyone.